Sage Wonder coming at you from my van down by the river. So working really hard to stay warm today. We had a really frosty morning. And thanks to everybody who wished me well on my trip to the beach. It was amazing. Maybe I'll do a video about some of the cool stuff I saw while I was there. It was a great place to watch wildlife. The Pacific Ocean is so full of life. So, speaking of the Pacific Ocean, just across the other side of the Pacific Ocean, I couldn't help but think about North Korea being right over there. And all of the stuff that's going on associated with Kim Jong-un and his quest to obtain nuclear power in the world. And so I got some time to think about what would be the best thing, how would be the best way to handle him with a military solution. Let's say none of this stuff works with all of the sanctions, and we don't accomplish anything as far as bringing his nuclear program down. And what if we have to do a military solution? When people first started talking about this, the standard military option was that we would have to nuke them, because that's the only thing that could guarantee that they would not be able to get a nuclear device off headed towards America, and that also they would not be able to, we could stop them from being able to use their thousands and thousands of artillery pieces that are heavily buried in the sides of mountains. And these things are on rail systems, so they're hidden inside of a bunker essentially, and they can roll those suckers out. These are non-nuclear traditional artillery pieces that can then bombard South Korea and wreak havoc in the capital, killing probably thousands, if not tens of thousands of people or more. And that the only way to deal with that was to nuke North Korea with a series of really powerful nuclear weapons strategically placed. This would be an ecological disaster in the world. This would be political suicide in a lot of ways, that there are people in governments around the globe that would take that almost as a personal threat to them. There could be nuclear retaliation from other countries, and that's why when I believe it was Steve Bannon left, he left the White House, and someone asked him about North Korea, and he said, look, there is no military option for North Korea, because the one military option we have is just too devastating to really consider. That what it would do to our Earth, what it would do to the region, what it would do to the geopolitical structures, how the other countries would respond to this. It's just all too risky. So the other option is we just sit on our hands and wait for Kim Jong-un to become a nuclear superpower capable of threatening us at whenever he wants to, on a whim, at will. So, what's another option? Well, while I sat and stared out over the Grand Pacific Ocean and sat there watching the beach and the breakers break, I reconsidered an idea that I had some time ago. And I've been giving it some deep thought, and I've heard some other people now saying this as well. Our option might be an EMP device. Now, EMP will not do anything to stop the standard artillery pieces. However, EMPs would knock out communications. Now, if America was to get EMP'd, it would be just as bad as a nuclear explosion. In a lot of ways, it would be worse, because it would destroy the American way of life. All of our people are completely consumed with, controlled by, and dependent on electronic devices for daily life in ways that many of them can't even understand. That, in fact, if you were to EMP the United States, I don't think that 90% fatality rate would be at all an overestimation. That this would be devastating to the United States because of how we live and because of how our people live, think, act, work, and behave on a daily basis. Now, that's because we're dependent on a silicon chip. We're dependent on these electronic devices in all of our commerce and everything we do. Now, because of the way that Kim Jong-un has treated his people, because of the way his father and grandfather treated their people, the people of North Korea are fairly primitive. The people are primitive. their vehicles that are there are older. A lot of them are like diesel-powered tractors and things like that, kickstart motorcycles. They don't require debit cards to make transactions. Most of the people still barter and trade. That they really, in so many ways, are hundreds of years behind the rest of the world. The common people, the people of North Korea. The city of Pyongyang and the government, now that's another story. They are very dependent to one degree or another on electronic devices, especially when it comes to communications. And that one could use an EMP device to cripple Pyongyang and all of the leadership and military structures. These nuclear devices, they've been working so hard to make them able to fly and navigate and survive the trip into space and out of space so that they can hit the United States, that there is just no way that they've spent any time insulating them against an EMP attack. That a strategic EMP attack against North Korea, specifically around Pyongyang, could very much at least slow down, if not completely cripple, the military's ability to communicate with one another, undo the nuclear program in one flash of an eye. And because it is not something that the North Korean people are dependent upon, that most of North Korea doesn't have electricity. If you look at a map of North Korea at night, or a satellite photograph from space of North Korea at night, you will see that there are lights in Pyongyang and no place else. There's a little hot spot right in Pyongyang. The rest of the country doesn't even have electricity. You could EMP them, and the people, the rank and file people of North Korea that do not live in Pyongyang would not even feel it. They wouldn't even feel it. It would go completely unnoticed for them. Their transportation is a lot of times animal driven. And if not animal driven, it's driven by old vehicles that would be resistant to EMP and quickly up and running again. So, having said all that, what about the artillery pieces? You would have to rely on communication and radar being heavily affected by the EMP, making those areas very susceptible to air attack. So it would have to be an EMP followed almost simultaneously by airstrikes on those with some serious conventional weapons like daisy cutter, bunker busting bombs, the mother of all bombs kind of bombs, Moabs and whatnot, to be dropped on those strategic artillery pieces to take hopefully 90% of them out of commission. There would still be some life lost in South Korea. There would still be some damage in Seoul. But I believe that an EMP coupled with a aerial attack, bombardment of these artillery sites, would essentially deactivate most of North Korea's military abilities. They might try to run across the border, but what would they accomplish without proper communication? And that is, in fact, electronically driven. I think there would be future problems in trying to stabilize North Korea. But if you followed up an EMP attack, an aerial bombardment with the South Korean invasion of North Korea, along with an attempt by special forces to kill the leadership or capture the leadership of North Korea, that this is a possible way of avoiding nuclear war with North Korea, but still taking the head off the snake and decapitating the leadership and putting a stop to most of the artillery bombardment. And if you had a strong South Korean boots on the ground attack across the DMZ, you might see widespread defection, widespread surrender by the North Korean forces, because they know and have heard enough rumors and seen enough evidence to know that life in South Korea is just better. Many of them have family there, and they've gotten word from them that they live like kings compared to the people of North Korea. And a lot of people in North Korea just want to leave and go to South Korea. This is a way this could happen. This is a way we could stop them. And this, I believe, is Donald Trump's next move. I think that he will do something about North Korea. And I think this is what they have planned, because just being an armchair warrior, from what I can see, this is the only option short of a nuclear war, which we all want to avoid. I believe North Korea will soon be EMP'd by the United States military. The South Koreans will invade North Korea, and the special forces will decapitate the leadership and maybe get Kim Jong-un himself out of office. This is how I see this going down. I see it as our only option, and I see it as happening sooner than later. Let me know what you think in the comments section. God save our republic, and God save this world.